Let's get something straight from the beginning. We live in a world where noise dominates. Everyone has something to say. Everyone wants to be heard, to be seen, to be validated. But here's the truth that most people miss. The real power, it doesn't scream. It doesn't beg for attention. It sits in silence and still commands the room. Too many people talk just to talk. They react without thinking. They respond to be right, not to be wise. They speak from ego, from emotion, from insecurity. But silence? It's a revelation. Silence is intentional. Silence is strength. Being quiet doesn't mean you're afraid. It doesn't mean you're lost or uncertain. It means you're in control. It means you're grounded. It means you've learned the rare art of mastering yourself before trying to master anything else. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between noise and wisdom. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the strongest. Often, it's the most insecure, the one trying the hardest to be validated. But the one who sits quietly, observing, listening, calculating, that's the one you should never underestimate. You see, when you choose silence, you choose clarity. You choose reflection over reaction. You choose peace over pointless arguments. And in that choice, you grow. You develop discipline. You preserve your energy. You become immune to the chaos around you. Think about it. How often do people say things they later regret? How often do they explode over small things, only to feel ashamed later? Silence keeps you from that trap. It protects your character while others unravel theirs. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that not every situation requires your voice. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every opinion needs your correction. And the best part? When you speak after being silent, your words carry weight. They come from a place of thoughtfulness, not desperation. People listen because you're not always speaking. And that's when you know you've gained true influence, not by being the loudest, but by being the wisest. So today, I challenge you. Stop trying to be heard and start trying to understand. Stop reacting to everything and start choosing your battles. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't even understand themselves. Let your silence speak. Let your discipline show. Let your peace confuse those who expected you to fall apart. Because silence is a weapon. It's a shield. And most importantly, it's a sign that you are not controlled by the world. You are in control of yourself. This isn't just about staying quiet. It's about becoming powerful through restraint. It's about choosing strength over ego. And in this noisy world, that kind of silence, too many people talk just to be heard. They speak without thinking. They react without reflecting. They respond out of emotion, not intention. But here's the truth. There is unmatched power in learning to be quiet. Being quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're in control of yourself. It means you have discipline. It means you're not moved by every little thing or every loud voice around you. You see, when you're always talking, you're too busy projecting to ever receive. You miss what others are trying to teach you. You miss the wisdom in silence. But when you're quiet, truly quiet, you start to hear more. You hear the intention behind people's words. You recognize who speaks out of truth and who speaks out of fear, ego, or insecurity. Because quiet people aren't trying to win arguments, they're winning in life. Because they're focused. They're observing. They're calculating. They are learning in silence what others miss while making noise. Most people are loud because they want attention. They want to feel important. They want to be seen. But the truth is, the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest. Real power doesn't need to yell. Real confidence doesn't need to convince. Real strength doesn't need to be seen, it's just felt. And when you're quiet, you're not just avoiding unnecessary drama, you're protecting your peace. You're preserving your energy. You're saying, I don't owe anyone a reaction. Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. It gives you space to think. It gives you room to grow. And it gives you clarity, something noise can never offer. Every time you feel the urge to react, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, and does this situation deserve my words? Is this a battle worth my energy? Is there strength in speaking, or would silence serve me better? Most of the time, the answer will be silence. Because silence can't be twisted. It can't be misquoted. It can't be taken out of context. And while others are busy trying to make noise, impress people, or start arguments, you're building. You're focusing. You're getting better in silence. You're rising quietly and powerfully. So stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your every move. Stop giving energy to things that don't align with your growth. And let your work speak. Let your peace speak. Let your results speak. Learn to be quiet, because silence isn't weakness. It's your greatest form of strength, mastering emotional control through silence. Silence is more than the absence of sound. It is the presence of self-control. When you learn to be quiet, you learn to master your emotions. You no longer respond out of anger, out of frustration, or out of fear. You learn to pause, to breathe, and to think. You realize that every reaction doesn't deserve your energy. And not every provocation requires a response. Too many people let their emotions control their lives. They get triggered and they explode. Someone insults them and they retaliate. Someone doubts them and they start defending themselves. But here's what real maturity looks like. You stay calm. You stay grounded. You stay silent, because peace is more important than pride. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone say something in anger that they later regret? Have you ever spoken too soon, only to wish you'd waited, thought it through, and responded differently? Silence is the power to hold back when your ego wants to strike. It's the wisdom to know that the first reaction is rarely the best reaction. People who are easily provoked are easily controlled. If anyone can push your buttons and get you to react, then you've given them power over you. But when you stay quiet, when you stay calm, you take your power back. Let them talk. Let them gossip. Let them underestimate you. You don't need to argue. You don't need to defend. He's the strongest one in the room is the one who doesn't flinch. The one who doesn't let emotion drive the moment. In silence, you get perspective. You step out of your emotions and into clarity. And you ask yourself, is this situation even worth it? Will this matter a week from now? Is this a distraction from my purpose? And more often than not, the answer is yes, it is a distraction. You realize that your peace is too valuable to be traded for temporary satisfaction. You see that emotional maturity is about choosing silence over chaos. You begin to understand that silence is not suppression, it's strategy. Because the person who can stay quiet under pressure, the one who doesn't lash out when disrespected, the one who walks away instead of wasting time arguing, that person is in full control. And that control is powerful. It makes you untouchable. It makes you wise. It makes you the kind of person who doesn't just react to life, you lead it. So the next time someone tries to pull you into drama, when they try to provoke you, insult you, challenge your peace, stay quiet, the way you feel. Stay grounded. And remember, silence isn't weakness. It's a shield. And only the strong know how to use it. Silence is a weapon, not a weakness. Silence is not the absence of power. It is power. In a world full of noise, where everyone is talking, posting, arguing, and performing, silence stands out. And it confuses people. It makes them wonder what you're thinking. And that is exactly why it's one of the most underestimated weapons you can possess. You see, when you don't reveal everything about yourself, when you choose not to explain, not to overshare, not to expose your next move, you protect your energy and keep your advantage. Let's be clear. Silence is not about being passive. It's about being strategic. You're not silent because you don't have something to say. If you're silent because you've learned that not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, there is strength in being unpredictable. There is power in mystery. Okay, because people can attack what they don't understand. They can't sabotage what they don't see coming. And they can't copy what they haven't figured out. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is say nothing. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every insult deserves your attention. And not every question should be answered. Because silence says more than words ever could. Silence tells people, I am unbothered. I am focused. I'm not here to entertain drama, gossip, or negativity. It tells the world that you are too busy working on your goals, on your peace, on your elevation, to waste time explaining yourself to people who never really listened anyway. Have you ever noticed that the most dangerous people in the room are usually the quietest? They don't need to prove themselves. They don't chase validation. They observe, analyze, and then strike only when necessary. That's the kind of quiet you should aim for. The kind of quiet that holds wisdom, discipline, and control. Think about lions. They don't roar all day to remind the jungle who they are. They move in silence. They hunt in silence. And when they roar, it's only to remind everyone that they're still king. So stop thinking that you always have to speak to be heard. Sometimes the loudest message is silence. The most powerful move is stillness. And the greatest strength is knowing when to walk away without a word. You don't have to announce your every step. Let your actions speak. Let your results speak. Let your growth, your transformation, your peace speak for you. Because when you learn to be quiet, you stop giving people the blueprint to destroy you. You stop feeding the enemy your plans. You become unpredictable, unreadable, and unstoppable. So choose silence, not because you're afraid to speak, but because you're wise enough to know when not to. Quiet people think more clearly. When you learn to be quiet, something amazing happens. You start to hear your own thoughts. In the constant chaos of life where people are always talking, posting, calling, and distracting, silence becomes your sanctuary. It becomes the space where your mind finally gets a chance to breathe, to reflect, to process what's going on, both inside and around you. Quiet people aren't weak. They're not lost. They're not disconnected. They are thinkers. They are observers. They are the ones who notice what others miss. While the world is busy reacting, loud people speak without thinking. They respond emotionally. They speak to be seen. They argue to win. But quiet people, they pause. They reflect. They calculate. And because of that, they often make better decisions. Decisions that are rooted in clarity, not chaos. Being quiet forces you to listen, not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to hear your intuition more clearly. You become more self-aware. You notice your patterns, your triggers, your strengths, your weaknesses. Silence sharpens your perspective. You begin to understand situations on a deeper level. You start to see through fake smiles, dishonest intentions, and manipulative words. Because you're not rushing to talk. You're studying, you're learning, you're connecting dots others haven't even seen. Quietness is a form of emotional intelligence. It allows you to detach from the noise and tune into what truly matters. When you're silent, you gain control over your emotions. You don't overreact. You don't say things you'll regret. You don't escalate situations, you evaluate them. And that's a rare skill in today's impulsive world. Silence is not just peaceful, it's productive. It gives your brain room to create, to innovate, to envision a better future. Some of the most brilliant ideas were born in silence, in solitude. That's why thinkers, inventors, and visionaries often retreat into silence before they emerge with clarity and purpose. So if you're someone who spends more time observing than talking, don't change that. It's your superpower. The world may not understand it, but that's because it's not meant for everyone to understand. People may call you shy, distant, or mysterious, but what they're really noticing is depth. You don't need to prove yourself by speaking the loudest. Your calmness speaks volumes. Your presence has weight. Even when you say nothing, you gain power when you learn to be quiet. Because in your silence, you find focus. In your silence, you hear the truth. And in your silence, you discover who you really are. Without the world trying to shape or interrupt that process. So don't run from the quiet. Run toward it. Because in the stillness, you don't just find peace, you find purpose. Silence builds strength. Silence is not weakness, it's strength under control. It's knowing that your energy doesn't need to be spent on every conversation, every conflict, or every moment that demands your attention. It's the ability to sit with yourself in your own space and be at peace with your own thoughts. People often confuse silence with passivity. They assume that if you're quiet, you have nothing to say. But let me tell you this, real power doesn't always need to speak. Real strength doesn't announce itself. Sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who says the least. Why? Because they've mastered themselves. But being quiet teaches you self-control. It teaches you patience. It teaches you when to speak, and more importantly, when to hold back. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can speak without thinking. Anyone can argue just to be heard. But it takes real discipline to remain calm when chaos surrounds you. It takes strength to walk away instead of engaging in every argument. It takes wisdom to understand that not every battle deserves your response. You become dangerous in the best way when you learn to stay calm under pressure. People wonder what you're thinking. They try to read your silence. And in that silence, you hold the upper hand. Silence builds discipline. It allows you to work in peace, grow in private, and plan without interference. You don't reveal your every move, and that makes you unpredictable and powerful. You're not rushing to prove yourself because you already know who you are. You don't need to impress anyone with noise. You let your results speak. You let your actions do the talking. You let your life reflect your mindset. And that kind of power, that's built in silence. In the quiet hours where no one is watching. In the early mornings where you choose to grow instead of scroll. In the late nights where you reflect instead of react. Silence gives you the space to transform. It helps you heal. It helps you let go. It helps you rise. So don't be afraid to distance yourself from the noise. Sometimes the only way to rise above the chaos is to detach from it. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to match anyone's energy, especially when it lowers your own. Protect your peace. Then guard your mind. Value your silence. Because in a loud world that's constantly demanding your attention, choosing silence is an act of strength. It's a refusal to be shaken. It's a declaration that your energy is too valuable to waste. Speak when it matters. Be silent when it doesn't. And let your quiet strength echo louder than any noise around you. Ladies and gentlemen, let this truth settle in your heart. Silence is not a void, it is a vessel. It is not emptiness, it is everything. In a time where voices are constantly raised, where opinions fly like arrows, and where people are addicted to being seen and heard, silence becomes your superpower. It becomes your edge. We often believe that being silent means being overlooked, underestimated, or weak. But the opposite is true. In silence, you gain leverage, you gain perspective, you gain peace. And peace in this chaotic world is priceless. When you stay quiet, you give yourself the space to feel, to think, to process, not just react. You avoid falling into traps of emotional outbursts and impulsive decisions. You stop wasting energy on people and things that don't matter. You stop letting the world control you, and instead you start mastering your own inner world. Think about it. How many times has silence saved you? From arguments, from regret, from making fool of yourself? Every time you held back from saying something just to be right or just to be heard, you chose power over pride. You see, silence is not about weakness. It is about wisdom. The wise do not waste words. They listen more than they speak. They observe more than they react. And when they do speak, people listen because their words are rare, intentional, and meaningful. The quiet ones, they're not sleeping. They are studying. They are strategizing. They are evolving. They are choosing to be focused in a world that rewards distraction, while others are performing for attention. The silent ones are preparing for elevation. And here's the truth that many will never understand. You don't need to announce your value to be valuable. You don't need to scream your worth to be worthy. You don't need to prove your strength to be strong. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. When you walk in silence, you move in strength. When you choose not to react, you choose peace. And when you refuse to be pulled into noise, drama, or emotional chaos, you become untouchable. So, to those who think silence is a weakness, let them talk, let them assume, let them underestimate you, because while they're making noise, you're making progress. While they're trying to be seen, you're preparing to be unforgettable. Final words. Stay silent, stay grounded, stay unshakable. Don't waste your breath proving yourself. Let your results speak. Don't waste your energy reacting to chaos. Let your peace speak. And don't waste your time explaining your journey. Let your transformations speak. Because at the end of the day, silence isn't just gold. Silence is strength. Silence is power. Silence is your secret weapon. And those